Hello again. I have a horrible suspicion that the time is fast approaching when channels like this one will be subject to regulation and censorship. That having unmoderated comments will be seen as a dangerous state of affairs. All the warning signs are there, and in the last week or so there have been two sinister new developments. One of these was the American Department for Homeland Security's so-called Disinformation Governance Board, whose aim was to try and counter deliberate untruths from spreading on the internet. There was such an outcry about this notion that it has been put on hold for a while, but it will be back. The fear is that people are saying things on social media groups in particular that are untrue, and they cause people to worry. I'm sure it is true, but I can't see why a new government department would be needed because some people don't always tell the truth. That particular phenomenon has been around from well before the internet. The next worrying development is that attempts are being made to link the Buffalo massacre with social media, and even to suggest that it might have been arranged via social media, and that at the very least the young man who killed 10 black people might have been radicalised on social media, and this might have caused him to launch the massacre. The New York public prosecutor has begun an inquiry into the extent to which social media were used to stream, promote or plan the event. Tech firms are being accused of being slack in not spotting what was going on and alerting the authorities. Again, lone shooting sprees in the United States have been a thing for well over 50 years and were going strong before anybody even thought of the internet or social media. All this has intensified the anxiety felt about the possibility that Elon Musk will make Twitter a completely open and uncensored site where anybody can say anything. This is a scary prospect to a lot of people. And of course, in this country, the online safety bill is due to criminalise the saying of things on social media which would be perfectly legal to say in the street. In other words, the aim is to stop people chatting freely and exchanging ideas on the internet. The excuse for this clamping down on freedom is that people might be saying untrue or worrying things on social media sites such as this one. This is, of course, quite true, and I don't doubt for a moment that untruthful things are said here, and perhaps misleading things, or certainly things which could worry some people. But then so what? There are no children here, and since we are all adults, why shouldn't we be free to say things to each other which might be mistaken or incorrect? At first sight, it is puzzling why both the British and American governments are keen to stop people doing stuff on social media sites that they can do anywhere else, in public places, say, or in articles in magazines. To understand the attempts to stop free speech, you need to know that this is something which has been happening regularly in Europe and North America for well over 1,000 years now, and it is caused by authorities who do not want ordinary people to have access to information or for them to hear about new ideas. At one time in this country, people were burned alive for heresy for having Bibles which had been translated into English. The church wanted all Bibles to remain in Latin, which few ordinary people understood. That way, the church and government could tell people their own version of what Jesus said and interpret it how they wanted, and ordinary people had no way at all of checking up whether they were being told the truth about Scripture or not. What that means is that the state had a monopoly on information and knowledge. The invention of printing was seen as a dangerous development because it meant that ordinary people might start being able to own their own books and find things out. Newspapers were seen as very disturbing, and as late as the 19th century, The government imposed very heavy taxes on paper and printed material in a deliberate attempt to make newspapers too expensive for the average working man or woman. Again, the fear of the government was that people would learn about current affairs and exchange information with each other, which was to be avoided at all costs. In a nutshell, what we are seeing now is the most recent iteration of this fear of the state. The smokescreen being used is that unregulated social media are used to upset and offend people, spread false ideas, and even to plan massacres and encourage other people to commit crimes. And for this reason, laws are needed to control the use of YouTube, Twitter, and so on. That's all nonsense. The real fear of government, both here and in America, is that people will communicate with each other freely and rapidly, and this might lead to all manner of evil, such as talking about lies told by the state and what we can do about them, that kind of thing. Who knows what might happen if too many people started to think deeply about the state of the world? Better by far if sites like YouTube could be limited to cute films of puppies on skateboards and stuff like that. It is words that are worrying the state. That and people starting to think for themselves and not just take their opinions from newspapers and television. And even worse, once they've started thinking and come up with ideas, social media sites make it possible for them to share those ideas with other people. And this is a prospect which fills all states with absolute dread.